Hi everyone, how's everyone doing here today? Pardon some of the background noise, but recently by now you've all seen just another prime example of just how low some people are going to go to stoop down to a GOP that clearly does not represent their best interests. In this particular case, it is with Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina. And he just went out there and gave this whole speech and just lie and just suck up to Donald Trump in the most pathetic way possible. And I'm not focusing on him in a racial sense. If anything, I'm just noting how he supports a party that is mostly, at this point, this whole MAGA GOP, just driven by white supremacy, by hate, and just absolute racism and bigotry. And being a black man doesn't seem to have a clue. Or does he? Because the comparison I made for him reminds me of back then, a few years back, when you had in Georgia the Senate race between Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker, who was a former football player, somebody who was mentally ill by his own admittance, and I'm not saying that as a put-down, I'm just saying, he had certain issues. But the GOP back then, people like Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz would look at him and tout him, when in reality, the GOP is just using a mentally ill person who happens to be a person of color that they can parade around and say, look, we're not racist, we support Herschel Walker. And in the end, had he won, which thank goodness he didn't, he would have been just another black person that they would just tell him what to do, saying, okay, Herschel, go out there, just sign this bill, just say yes, this and that. No, we're not interested in what you have to say, this and that. Not that he would have a whole lot to say, because he had no governing experience. He didn't know anything about being a senator. It doesn't matter. They just need somebody black to tell them what to do. And in the end, that's pretty much going to be the fate of Tim Scott, only in South Carolina. You think I'm wrong? Ask yourself this. As a GOP member, what has he done for the people of South Carolina? I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's why I'm asking if somebody has any insight. But I can't think of anything. So he's got no accomplishments. So he's not doing anything for, the African American population there, let alone the people on whole in South Carolina, let alone the whole country. But now here he is, he made a presidential run. That wasn't going to work. Come on. Did anybody really think he had a chance of winning? Did he really believe he had a chance of winning? Okay? And when that doesn't work, what does he do? He takes the low ground, and just decides to kiss the ring and lick Donald Trump's boots. And just, to a bunch of people, to Trump himself, who is racist, and other members of the GOP who are racist. I'm not saying the whole party's like that, but if you give in to the whole MAGA base thing, which, there's a lot of racism going there, you're either one or two things. You either are a racist or you're pretty much saying, I'm okay with the racism, as long as it keeps me in power. To a politician, maybe, but to the people, no. They're going to get the short end of the stick, because Donald Trump does not care about people. It claims to be America first when it's more like just Trump first. That is MAGA. And now Tim Scott has decided to put himself right in the middle of it. So, like Herschel Walker, he will be just another obedient black person to go out there and lick Trump's boots and do exactly what the GOP tells him to do. And they'll look around and Trump will be like, look, there's my African American. See, I'm not a racist. I've got Tim Scott. It is absolutely pathetic, and the fact that Tim gives into this, and what's more mind-boggling is, as far as I know, he's not mentally ill. In fact, he is fairly educated. He is pretty intelligent. But in the end, he just decided to sell out, like so many other members of the GOP. And just do it out there to say, look, we'll use Tim Scott to get the African-American vote. And it is just really despicable, and how, some people just don't see through this. At least as far as the MAGA crowd goes. In fact, and I know this is not a nice thing to say, but I'm sure Trump and other members of the GOP would be more than happy to regard not Tim Scott by any name or title of respect, but just simply call him boy. Yeah, boy. Not call him Senator, not call him Mr. Scott, or even Tim, like on a first name basis, to be more friendly, but just be like, okay, boy, now you go out there, you say some nice things about Donald Trump. Tell him what a great guy is, how much you love him, and how he's going to do great for all the other black people out there. Yeah, you do that, Tim. And is Tim going to have any say in the matter? No. He's just going to be yet another bootlegger. It's one thing to be MAGA and to be like sold out and corrupt. It's another thing to just, compromise all your values. Maybe Tim Scott didn't have any. All right. Maybe he just doesn't care, but you can't tell me he doesn't know. And if he doesn't have the self-awareness to do the right thing, I'm not even saying he has to call out Donald Trump, but succumb to him like this just to get in his good graces and stay in power, which means he's yet another GOP that's not going to do anything for the American people in the end. Good job, Tim. I mean, I'm sure you folks must be proud, because if I was a family member of Tim or a personal friend, I would seriously pull him aside and sincerely talk to him and say, what are you doing? Why are you letting yourself being used? Why are you selling you and your people out? Why are you selling your country out? Because Trump is not about country. I'd be curious to hear what he has to say. That would be in private and closed doors, but until then, he's going to go out on Fox like he's already done and just continue to lie. And just make all these things like, oh yeah, Donald's doing so much for the black American people, and and Biden's a bad guy, and crime, and this and that and that. Just continue to lie just so he can stay in power. And you think I'm wrong? Like I said, name an accomplishment. And moral, just imagine what it would be like if Tim Scott went out and said something like, oh, well, yeah, January 6th was kind of bad. Maybe it was a rig shot. Just do the slightest thing to show some ounce of disloyalty. And guess what? Donald Trump will drop him like a heartbeat and say some pretty nasty things about him, along with giving him some silly nickname like he does with all the other people that don't suck up to him. It's easy to look at and laugh and joke, but in the end, it's pretty sad to see people do stuff like that, because I expect so much better for politicians, regardless of the color of their skin. Because in the end, they should be serving people, but they just continue to line up and serve this authoritarian, fascist-like person who doesn't give a damn about them, let alone the rest of America. It really is pathetic. So, anyway, thank you for watching. I really hope you understand.